will the so-called double suspensions, as you heard from the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, will that work, Mr. Zhao?
Well, I hope it will work because it really addresses the most important root cause of the nuclear crisis. Underlying the North Korean nuclear crisis is the deep perception of North Korea about the threat from the combination of US and South Korean conventional and nuclear military capabilities. And the recent exercise that practices attacking North Korean leadership, attacking North Korean command control system certainly doesn't help. And on the American side, the US also badly needs to talk with North Korea because North Korea is on the verge of obtaining an ICBM capability, being able to deliver nuclear weapons directly to the homeland of the United States. So the Chinese proposal, I think, addresses the most important concerns of both parties, and therefore I think deserves serious consideration.
That's from you, the Chinese scholar. Let's go to Professor Lee. What do you think about that proposal from the Chinese side? For the US, is it possible to implement?
In time, the US will talk to North Korea, but the atmospherics, the mood in Washington right now is not conducive to engaging North Korea in those kinds of talks. There have been many constants over the past decades regarding these issues and proposals. North Korea has been trying to develop a credible nuclear arsenal for several decades now. The combined annual US-South Korea military exercises have been going on for about 40 years. And there is the unfortunate precedent when in the mid-90s, the US and South Korea suspended these military exercises as a goodwill gesture toward North Korea in the wake of the first nuclear accord signed by North Korea and the United States in 1994.
Right.
Yet North Korea apparently kept on trying to develop nuclear weapons. So if the proposal is implemented, yes, it will diffuse tension for the short term, but I think under the current circumstances, it's very hard for that to be effected.
Professor Lee, if I could follow up with one point, it seems that we are talking about very different generations of North Korean leaders. And in your answer, back in the 1990s, this was another generation, and certainly the new generation coming into power. He has done something on his own decision, but at the same time, it seems that he is also in the urgency of finding his own security. Do you think in this new era and this new generation, things will also come back a bit to the possibility for peace? Professor Lee, briefly.
You know, one constant theme in Chinese literature is the decline of family fortune across 3 generations. Kim Jong-un is the 3rd generational dynastic leader in North Korea. With the passage of time, it becomes more and more difficult to hold things together for a state like North Korea, which faces across the border a far more successful, rich, free Korean state. So I think, yes, the generational gap and the generational realities that Kim Jong-un faces, the ever-increasing economic discrepancy gap between North Korea and South Korea, are all reasons for Kim to continue down his path of tyrannical rule and nuclearization.
Mr. Zhao, you want a response?
Well, I think North Korean government certainly wants to engage with the Trump administration.
We have heard earlier news, right? I mean, between the lower levels of so-called think tanks and officials, that some of the North Korean think tank people are going to New York to meet the former senior officials from the U.S., but of course the assassination issue eventually prevented everything from happening. Mr. Zhao, I just want to intrude and
right.
express
I think
this,
that track 2 dialogue was suspended due to its overexposure to the media even before it took place. And it drew too much international attention. Therefore, when the assassination took place, the senior U.S. official felt it was not an appropriate time to continue this dialogue. However, I think the U.S. also needs to talk with North Korea. The recent U.S. government is conducting a comprehensive review of North Korea policy, and they openly recognize that the previous policy of so-called strategic patience has failed. And therefore, they have to seriously reconsider the option of engaging with North Korea. And I think both countries have a reason to engage with each other, hopefully starting from the track 2 level.
Very interesting, Professor Lee. As you know, the report that Mr. Zhao mentioned so-called plans to deal with the Korean Peninsula issue will come out likely at the end of the month. Of course, whether the White House would adopt it is another thing, but the question is, under this administration, this probably, the Korean Peninsula crisis, the looming one, it's really the first crisis the administration is facing in terms of foreign policy. So let's take a look whether they will be able to come up with any plan and the right plan. That's really a test of their capability, isn't it?
It is, and I think North Korea has been busy trying to grab the attention of the new untested Trump administration with its missile test in mid-February and the missile barrage just this week. The Secretary of State, Tillerson, as you know, will visit East Asia next week, Japan, South Korea, and China. And whatever is on the agenda will pretty much give us the clue, the signal on how the U.S. is intending to proceed on the North Korea issue.
Mr. Zhao, China's role. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said it very clearly this time about where China is in terms of this crisis and what China wants to do. He talked specifically, this is a crisis between the United States and North Korea. This is the very first time China said it very clearly. And China is here to facilitate solutions. But it's not China's role to bring solutions to the table, but rather the two parties. What do you make of that position? And what would that mean for China's approach to the overall issue?
Well, I think it's very clear that the nuclear crisis is a result of direct and serious rivalry between North Korea and the United States. China, wanting to be a goodwill interlocutor, has invested major diplomatic and political resources into promoting direct engagement between the relevant parties. The sixparty talks proved to be very successful at that time. And also even today, most Western countries have more or less cut off both political and economic relations with North Korea. And China becomes one of very few remaining windows that North Korea can keep in touch with international communities. So it's very important for us to keep this channel of communication, especially at a time of major crisis.
But that takes commitment from both sides. I mean, from China and also from North Korea as well.
Yeah, I mean, sure, North Korea also needs to engage with the international community, making its will to engage very clearly, and that he can do. North Korea can do that through the channel of communication from China.
Professor Lee, just now we saw some historical footages of the earlier six-party talks already years past. Remember, there was smile on the diplomats' face when they were meeting for the six-party talk. When is that smile going to come back again? That's a huge question mark.
Well, North Korea has been saying that the nuclear issue will never be on the agenda. That is, North Korea will not dismantle its nuclear program. So that's a major obstacle. And I think when negotiations, either bilateral or multilateral, resume again, and they will at some point, unlike, blind date, there won't be much spontaneity or excitement. Everything will be pre-arranged, planned for, and there'll be a lot of frank exchange of sentiments between North Korea and the United States. So I don't see this issue being resolved, I'm afraid, anytime soon.
It is certainly not a blind date. There's not that much chemistry going on there. But Mr. Zhao, your final word.
I think U.S. really faces this historical opportunity because North Korea is about to have a more liberal government that is more pro-engagement with North Korea. And Mr. Trump, being the author of the book, The Art of the Deal, he also faces this opportunity of becoming the American president that would have prevented North Korea from obtaining the capability to delivering nuclear weapon to the homeland of the United States. So I think he would seriously consider the option of engagement and become that president and fulfill his promise of becoming a good deal maker.